Part 146. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1451. Next door, Ling Ning was slumped on the ground, her head and face covered in blood. It was her own blood. She was even a little glad that Hizawei had come. If they hadn't come, she would have been beaten to death by that Wenqiao. Hizawei looked at her with a sinister expression. You dare to kidnap her? Do you want your life? Ling Ning was frightened for a while. Wenqiao's red-eyed look just now made him look like he had come from hell. Really scary. She slumped on the ground without saying a word. Hizawei's eyes were sinister. I kidnapped others and were killed like this in the end. Ling Ning wiped the blood from his face. I underestimated the enemy. Hizawei chuckled lightly. Teresa said regretfully, Miss Ling Ning, why did you do this? You are in Hiken now. You kidnapped Miss Wen. You will be held criminally responsible. You will go to jail. Moreover, Ling Ning led so many people to kidnap Wenqiao, and was eventually killed like this. It was really a waste of money. Didn't this prove to her husband that she was not as good as Miss Wen? It's really a loss that outweighs the gain by losing both the wife and the soldiers. Ling Ning's face was covered with blood, and she gritted her teeth and said, Go to jail, go to jail, she hurt my man like this, she wants to go to jail with me. You still have the nerve to say that. Hizawei kicked him down, and the already seriously injured person was almost kicked to death by him. Ling Ning looked at Hizawei with anger and grievance. Teresa didn't dare to start a fight. She could only say that Miss Ling Ning was like this and hadn't realized where she was wrong. Even if she didn't accept Wenqiao, she should have competed openly instead of secretly kidnapping others like this. The ambulance arrived, and two medical staff stood beside Hizawei. Seeing his strong aura, they cautiously said, Sir, we have to take her back to the hospital for rescue. Hizawei chuckled, she can't die. Ling Ning gritted her teeth and the leading doctor said, we see that she is seriously injured. After saying that, under the nose of Hizawei, he helped Ling Ning into the ambulance. On the other side, Fu Nanli helped Wenqiao wipe the blood on his face and asked softly, do you want to go to the hospital? After wiping the blood on his face, he discovered that Wenqiao's face was covered with bruises, at least there were no obvious wounds. Wenqiao came to his senses, no. There is no need to go to the hospital. She raised her eyes and saw the wound on Fu Nanli's face. Is this, what's wrong? Did Ling Ning hurt you? After saying that, he was about to touch his wound, but Fu Nanli grabbed his hand. Well, it's okay, it's a small injury. Wenqiao gritted his teeth. It's okay for her to hit me, but she still dares to hit you. I'll go find her to settle the score. After saying that, she pushed open the door and rushed out of the car, but Fu Nanli couldn't hold her back. The door of the ambulance had not yet been closed, and when Wenqiao rushed over in a menacing manner, Ling Ning, who was seriously injured, was actually a little scared. Wenqiao grabbed the back door of the ambulance that was about to close. Ling Ning gritted his teeth, what are you doing? Why do you want to involve my boyfriend in the matter between us? What the hell are you talking about? After saying that, she saw her husband's face was gloomy and gritted his teeth again. He couldn't even say harsh words. The husband is really protecting this Wenqiao. She was lucky that he didn't kill her today. She will still dare to do it next time if she has the chance. The injury on my boyfriend's face. Didn't you do it yourself? Wenqiao was stunned for a moment. The nurse closed the door and the ambulance whined away from them. Only then did Fu Nanli catch up, and Wenqiao looked ashamed. It was me who hurt you, it was me. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1452. She would actually hurt Fu Nanli. She felt a little scary about herself like this. Fu Nanli hugged her and got into the car. It's okay. Wen Qiao, if something happens and you can't stop me, then who can stop me? Didn't I stop you? It's just that you were entangled with Ling Ning at that time and you just didn't react for a moment. Don't think too much, okay? Wen Qiao covered his face with his hands and lay on his knees without saying a word. Go back first. As for Ling Ning and her men kidnapping you, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Go back and rest. Don't think about anything. I'm here. As the car drove away, Hizawei stood there, lit a cigarette, and looked at Susie. The little girl only kisses her boyfriend. As an uncle, what do you think? My impression is that if you are just trying to stir up discord, then go and learn more. Hizawei, okay, I'll go study further. Susie was too lazy to pay attention to him, got in the car, and drove away. The snow fell heavier and heavier, and the fire was quickly put out. The men who were knocked unconscious by Wen Qiao were also pulled out by the firefighters. They were not dead, but they were all seriously injured, and they were quickly put into ambulances. Hizawei got into the car, and Teresa saw a smile on the corner of his mouth in the rearview mirror. The gentleman seems to be in a good mood. Probably because everything tonight proved that Wen Qiao is indeed suitable to be his successor. Miss Ling Ning is really committing suicide. If she does something like this, she will be completely eliminated and will have to go to jail. When the car stopped in front of a villa, snowflakes fell from the sky. Wen Qiao looked at the villa blankly. Where is this? This is my new residence. I will live here from now on. After saying that, he got off the car with Wen Qiao in his arms. Wen Qiao remembered that the neighbor saw him hugging her last time, and he quickly changed his residence. Wen Qiao and Fu Nanli entered the villa. The decoration style was simple Nordic style, with a hint of warmth in the simplicity. It was obvious that Fu Nanli was accommodating her aesthetics. Wen Qiao took his hand and asked, "Where is the medical kit?" Fu Nanli wandered around the new house. He wasn't quite sure where the medical kit was, so he finally found it after searching for a while. Wen Qiao helped him clean the wound, applied medicine, and finally put a band-aid on him. Fortunately, the injury is not serious. Otherwise she would feel so guilty. Fu Nanli touched her head. Don't worry about the minor injury. Go take a bath. Her head and body were all covered in ashes, and her face was still red even now due to the high temperature steaming in the fire. Wen Qiao took a quick shower, changed into pajamas, and entered the bedroom. That Ling Ning, how did she kidnap you? Wen Qiao sat on the sofa and touched his neck. Are there any needle holes here? Fu Nanli pushed aside her long hair and saw that there was indeed a very small pinprick there that could not be seen without looking carefully. The grandson used anesthetic and kidnapped me right in front of my house. Where's Siu? Siu entered the door first. Her time difference was really accurate. It seems like this is not the first time she has done this kind of thing. Fu Nanli's face was gloomy. She committed a crime this time and will have to go to jail in the future. Wen Qiao lay on his lap. I have to sit through the bottom of the prison. Speaking of which, it was Hizawei who caused trouble for me. Who wants to be his heir? If it hadn't been for this, why would Ling Ning cause trouble for me? I have a career ambition to expand. Who wants to be the leader of the five-pointed star? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1453. She now holds Fu Nanli's shares and Qasim's shares. Her goal is to become bigger and stronger, first becoming the richest woman in the country, then becoming the richest woman in Asia, and finally, if she is lucky, she might become the richest woman in the world. Pentagram. Haha, she's not interested. Fu Nanli's eyes were heavy. I hope he's away will stop having such wishful thinking because of this incident. Wen Qiao, I hope so. Fu Nanli saw the scars on her arms at a glance. After all, how could he not get injured if he fought with so many people? Fu Nanli rolled up her sleeves and saw a lot of bruises on her arms and back, and they looked like scars from being hit hard with a wooden stick. Did they do it? Wen Qiao said nonchalantly, otherwise, could I have done it myself? Fu Nanli gave her some medicine to activate blood circulation and remove blood stasis. Did he hit you with a wooden stick? Wen Qiao nodded. Well, I was unprepared. There were more of them. I received 2 sticks. Those 2 sticks were a little painful, but the rest were fine. Fu Nanli was worried. Those people, he will let them sit through the bottom of the prison. In the darkness of the He family mansion, He Ziwei sat on the leather sofa and smoked. Miss Ling Ning was taken away by the police. Teresa reported everything in detail. Oh, I see. Teresa said cautiously, do you need to talk to the police here? After all, this is someone who has been trained by my husband for more than 10 years. Does he really need to go to jail? He Ziwei's eyes seemed to be quenched with ice. What kind of air is there? Teresa choked, knowing that she had said the wrong thing, and she did not dare to say anything out loud. She almost killed Wen Qiao. Do you think I should let her go? Teresa, no. No. At Mr. He's place, you really only see the new ones smiling and don't hear the old ones crying. I can only say that Ling Ning is unlucky. She was not destined to inherit the pentagram. He Ziwei spoke again, don't you think Wen Qiao is still too human now? The voice was so sinister that it made Teresa's scalp tingle. Compared with her husband, Wen Qiao must be too impersonal, but the girl is actually calm and rational enough. If you calm down again, you won't be a normal person. He Ziwei lit the cigarette ashes. It's time to take action. Teresa's heart tightened. Half a month later, Wen Mo participated in the finals in Haikan, and Wen Qiao accompanied him to record. As the Chinese New Year approaches, it's freezing cold in Haikan. During the break in recording, Wen Qiao went to the bathroom, and Siu accompanied her there. Now Siu dared not leave Wen Qiao even an inch. When coming out of the bathroom, Wen Qiao saw a familiar figure. I vaguely felt that that man looked like Fu Nanli's father. Fu Nanli showed her a photo of his father, who looked very similar to Fu Nanli. The man was wearing a grey coat and still looked so handsome. Among the crowd, Wen Qiao hurriedly chased after him. Siu grabbed her hand. Aren't you going back to the recording site? Wen Qiao, I see someone I know, let's go check it out. Siu thought that this was a TV station and there were so many people, so nothing would happen, so he followed Wen Qiao forward. In an empty video studio, the big lights were on. Wen Qiao pushed the door open and saw the man sitting in the first row of the audience. Wen Qiao walked down the steps one by one. There was a red carpet on the ground, and the lights coming from the stage were a bit dazzling. Her heart was beating loudly, and when she reached the first row, she stopped dead in her tracks. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1454. The man turned around and smiled at her. Hello. When Xiao Ding was there, everything seemed like a dream. Are you Fu Nanli's father? I am. He smiled warmly and looked like a warm and kind person. When Xiao frowned, you're really not dead? Fu Xianyuan said nothing and avoided looking. Wen Qiao gritted his teeth and said, since you are not dead, why haven't you come back for so many years? Do you know how much Fu Nanli misses you? Do you know how much mental trauma he suffered because of your death? Sorry, I have my own reasons. What kind of last resort made you ignore your wife and son? Suddenly, Siu shouted, Wen Qiao, be careful. From the side curtain of the stage, a dozen people suddenly poured out, each holding a wooden stick in his hand. Wen Qiao's face was gloomy. Could it be that Fu Nanli's father was a decoy? How so? Who is he working for now? She was not allowed to think too much, a fierce battle was about to break out. The door of the studio was locked, and there was a party going on at the recording site next door. It was extremely lively and crowded, and no one could hear the sound of fighting in the venue. At the gate of the TV station, Fu Nanli got off the Rolls-Royce. Qinbei held an umbrella for him, but snowflakes still fell on his shoulders. Master, Miss Wen, and the others are in the T2 recording hall. The director of the TV station personally led the senior management to greet him and sent Fu Nanli to the T2 recording hall. However, Wen Qiao and Siu were not seen at the scene. Where are they? The staff member was immediately called over and said, I just went to the bathroom and should be back soon. How long have you been there? 5 minutes. Fu Nanli sat aside and waited for Wen Qiao. After waiting for another 10 minutes, he felt something was not right, so he got up and walked out. There are 2 bathrooms on 1 floor. The station director sent 2 female staff members into the bathroom, but neither Wen Qiao nor Siu were seen. Fu Nanli's face suddenly darkened. Is there still danger in the TV station? That Ling Ning is already dead, so she probably has no other enemies. Fu Nanli did not dare to neglect, and immediately went to the monitoring room and found a familiar figure. Wen Qiao followed the familiar figure to an empty studio on the 4th floor. Go there immediately. A group of people rushed to the photo studio on the 4th floor, and there was a loud noise next door. Fu Nanli took a look and saw a lock on it, opened the door immediately. The director asked someone to quickly get the key, and when the door opened, she saw Wen Qiao sitting on the ground, her hands covered with blood again, and in front of her, a man was lying there, motionless. Siu was also seriously injured, and the scene was chaotic. Fu Nanli walked over and hugged Wen Qiao. It's okay. Wen Qiao's voice became hoarse, I can't say a word. Qinbei's voice suddenly came, young master, he is. Fu Nanli looked back at the man lying on the ground, his face suddenly turned pale. That was his father, that was his father. How so? Why is he here? What happened to Qiao and him? Send him to the hospital. After saying that, he helped Wen Qiao up. Wen Qiao's eyes were distracted and his anger remained. Qinbei and Song'an lifted Fu Xianyuan up. Qinbei's face was solemn, and the husband seemed seriously injured. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1455. I'm afraid sending him to the hospital won't help. In the midst of the chaos, Fu Xianyuan and Wen Qiao got into their cars and went straight to the hospital. Siu sat in the passenger seat, panting. Fu Nanli's face was sinister. Why couldn't I hold her back? What's the use of you? Siu's face was covered with blood. I'm sorry, young master, there are many of them, and they seem to be beating Wen Qiao and me to death. If we don't try our best, we will be the ones who die. Fu Nanli frowned deeply. What happened to that man? Is he with them? Yes. Fu Nanli's eyes were gloomy. Impossible. How could his father be with those who wanted Qiao's life? When Qiao came to his senses in his arms, his eyes a little frightened, I seem to have seen your father just now. Fu Nanli comforted her, it's okay. When Qiao lowered his eyes and saw the blood on his hands, did I hurt him? No, Joel, you didn't hurt him. When Qiao shook his head, I have an impression that he rushed up suddenly. I couldn't control my emotions at that time. I seem to have hurt him. No. You didn't. When Qiao held his hand tightly, as if grasping a piece of driftwood. Her mind was noisy and chaotic. Everything just now was too chaotic. When she was on the verge of losing consciousness, she saw Fu Nanli's father rushing toward her with a knife in his hand. She looked at him in disbelief, not knowing why he was standing against her. Then, she was out of control. Everything felt like a nightmare, unreal to her. At Fu Nanli's private hospital, several black Rolls-Royces were parked at the entrance of the emergency room. Li Fang personally greeted him. When he saw Fu Xianyuan, he frowned deeply. Isn't this Nan Li's father? He's not dead? How could it be so seriously injured? Fu Xianyuan was pushed into the operating room. Fu Nanli helped Wen Qiao clean up the blood on her face and hands outside. Fortunately, she was not seriously injured. A group of people waited outside in agony. The operation lasted 3 hours. Li left the operating room, took off his mask, and said solemnly, "Nan Li, please express my condolences." "What's this?" His father suddenly appeared, and he died again without letting him see him for the last time. What kind of blow should be given to Nan Li? At this time, Fu Nanli was no longer the Fu Nanli he was before. Even though his heart was filled with turmoil and doubts, the expression on his face was invisible to anyone. He couldn't be saved. Yes. No. For your condolences, go in and take a look. Fu Nanli walked heavily into the operating room. The man's face was covered with white cloth, and the nurses and doctors walked out. There was dead silence in the operating room. He stood beside the operating table and did not have the courage to lift the white cloth. After a long time, he finally gently opened a corner. At that time in South Island, in the cemetery, all I saw was him. Since it's him, why have you been hiding? Where exactly have you been all these years? What kind of life do you live? And why did he become the opposite of Qiao? What is all this about? There were noisy footsteps outside the operating room. Fu Nanli walked out of the operating room solemnly and saw his mother and grandfather. They actually came. He didn't even have time to process it or seal it. Thank you for your support, I really appreciate you all. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1456. Fu Huayong staggered a little and grabbed Fu Nanli's hand. Is it true? They said your father is here. Fu Nanli frowned and said, who told you? Mr. Fu didn't bother to answer his question. Let me ask you, is he here? Yamingkai looked at him nervously. A man who had been dead for decades, suddenly someone brought news that he was not dead. Even if there were such grievances in the past, she was willing to forgive him, as long as he was still well. Fu Nanli had a complicated mood. He is in the operating room. Fu Huayong's voice trembled. So, is it true? Is your father really still alive? Yamingkai's eyes were red and tears couldn't stop falling. As long as a person is alive, no matter what he has done before, after decades have passed and he has recovered it, she is willing to forgive him. Fu Nanli said in a heavy voice, not alive. Fu Huayong and Yamingkai were both stunned. What do you mean? When we saw him, he was seriously injured. Qin Bei, Song and other bodyguards behind him did not dare to say anything. The young master was obviously trying to protect Miss Wen. They were all the young master's people and were on the same side as the young master. They would not betray the young master or Miss Wen. Fu Huayong opened his lips nervously. Seriously injured? Then what? By the time we got to the hospital, it was already too late. Grandpa, Mom, I'm sorry. Fu Huayong's legs went weak, and Uncle Li and the bodyguards beside him quickly helped him. The corridor was eerily quiet, the atmosphere was solemn and depressing, and Fu Huayong couldn't stop his tears from falling. I thought it was lost and recovered, but I didn't expect that it was just a second loss. Why would God make such a joke? The door to the operating room was right in front of him, but he didn't have the courage to go in. He didn't dare to go in. Ye Mingkai was more rational than him, and said with a trembling voice, "Dad, let's go in and take a look. In the past, we didn't even see his body, neither alive nor dead. Now, at least we can see his body. At least his ashes can be buried in the Fu family cemetery." What else could she not accept? Gently opening the sliding door of the operating room, the man lay quietly on the operating table, with a white cloth covering his head from his feet. So close, Ye Mingkai seemed to have been gone for half a lifetime. This man has been wandering outside for half his life. What happened? Finally, another corpse appeared in front of her. The man's left hand was slightly lowered, not covered by the white cloth, and a ring on his ring finger glowed faintly. She could tell at a glance that it was their wedding ring. He actually still wore it? With sore eyes, she smiled to herself, but what was the point? She gently lifted the white cloth covering her face. When Fu Huayong saw his son, Yin and Yang were separated, his vision went dark, and he almost fainted. Uncle Li hurriedly helped him out. Only Ye Mingkai and Fu Xianyuan were left in the operating room. Hot tears dripped on the white cloth. Ye Mingkai chuckled and raised his hand to gently wipe away the tears. "I never thought that I would shed tears for you in this life." There was no reaction from the person on the operating table, but Ye Mingkai gently touched the ring on his finger. "The finger is as cold and heartless as the ring. Are you tired? I don't know what kind of life you have been living outside in your life, but now, you can sleep well. You also know the Fu family cemetery. The sun is good there, with the green mountains behind and the sea facing. Sleep peacefully there. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me." Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1457. Ye Mingkai's tears fell violently, but her voice remained normal. "I have forgiven you a long time ago. In fact, there is really no need for you to be away for so many years. Forget it, there seems to be no point in saying this." His fingers touched the man's face, but there was no warmth or emotion. Finally, he slowly leaned over, hugged the man on the operating table, and cried softly. Outside the operating room, Fu Huayong regained his breath and asked Fu Nanli, "How did your father become like this? Who killed him?" Fu Nanli's eyes were deep. "I don't know, he was already like this when we arrived." Fu Huayong gritted his teeth. "No matter what the cost, we must find out who killed him." Wen Qiao wanted to step forward, but Qin Bei held him back and shook his head gently. "Miss Wen, don't be impulsive. You must discuss everything with the young master before talking about it." Wen Qiao lowered his eyes, held Qin Bei's shoulders tightly, and whispered, "But I can't help it." Just as he was about to step forward, Fu Nanli turned around and pushed her into his arms. "Qin Bei, send Qiao back first." "Wen Qiao, I won't go back." Fu Nanli stroked her back gently. "Be good, go back first, let me handle the matters here." Qin Bei forcibly took Wen Qiao out of the hospital. "It's cold and freezing, and the black sky is like a dark net, covering it, making people's breathing heavy." Wen Qiao sat in the car like a zombie. Qin Bei comforted her, "As long as the young master is here, nothing will happen." There was still blood on Wen Qiao's fingers, "But I killed someone, and that person was his father." "You, don't think too much." Wen Qiao threaded his fingers into his hair and buried his head between his knees in pain. In a Bentley not far away, Hezaway was sitting in the back seat with a cigarette between his fingers. "Sir, will they find the problem?" "What did you find?" Hezaway raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Teresa in the front seat. Found out that Fu Xianyuan did not die at the hands of Wen Qiao." Hizawei smiled. Oh? You said that he did not die at the hands of Wenqiao, then tell me, how did he die? Teresa shuddered, she was being smart again. Just, died at the hands of Miss Wen. Wrong. Teresa was sweating on her forehead. She didn't know what the boss wanted to hear or say. It's obviously not because of Wenqiao, how can you wrongly accuse her? Teresa quickly apologized and smiled, yes, you are right. Hizawei smiled, but it doesn't matter whether she is or not. Fu Nanli's grandfather and mother, including Fu Nanli, will all think that Fu Xianyuan died at the hands of Wenqiao. Teresa carefully guessed her husband's intentions. In this way, Wenqiao will break up with the Fu family. This is what you want to see, right? I said, she is still too humane. I don't like her total humanity. The word but was already on Teresa's lips, but she knew that her husband would not like to hear such heartfelt words. Yes, you said so. Hizawei laughed softly, Fu Xianyuan can live for several more decades thanks to me. Now, when I am in need, of course he should be willing to die like this, don't you think? Teresa nodded, yes. Snow was falling outside the window, and Hizawei said in a deep voice, okay, let's go. In the hospital, Fu Nanli arranged for his grandfather and mother to be sent away first, and then his father was sent to the morgue. He stood alone in the morgue until 2 o'clock in the morning. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1458. Li Fang, Song and some senior officials of the hospital were waiting for him outside. No one dared to go in and call him. When he came out, Song felt that his young master was so lonely and distressed. Master, go back first, there is no resurrection after death. When Fu Nanli got into the car, it was snowing heavily. Fu Nanli's migraine came at the wrong time, and the pain made him suffocate. Song was worried, should I ask Dean Li to come to your villa? No, I'll just take a rest. There were many things to deal with, including his father's funeral, how to explain to his grandfather and mother, how to comfort Jiao. There were too many problems lying in front of him. It was so messy that he didn't know what to do with it for a moment. When he arrived at the villa, there was silence. He took off his coat, hung it on the hanger, and slowly went upstairs. Pushing open the bedroom door, he saw it was empty. His heart skipped a beat and he softly called Wenqiao's name. No one answered. He searched every room in the villa but couldn't find her. He called Qinbei. Qinbei said that he had indeed sent the person and that all his bodyguards lived in the villa next door. Qinbei said that he did not see Wenqiao leave. Fu Nanli returned to the master bedroom and entered the bathroom. He saw Wenqiao soaking in the bathtub with his clothes on. I reached out and touched it. The water in the bathtub was cold. Are you desperate? Do you want to freeze to death? Fu Nanli pulled him out. Wenqiao's eyes turned red, let me surrender. Fu Nanli helped her change clothes, wrapped the person in a bath towel and returned to the bedroom. Turning the heating on to the maximum, he helped her wipe her hair and whispered, you didn't kill the person. She is unconscious. She cannot be considered a murderer. Even if she surrenders, she will not be held criminally responsible. No matter what, he would protect her. Wenqiao held his hand tightly, he is your father, how could I? Okay, Jiao, don't think too much, the matter is over, don't think too much, don't think too much. Wenqiao, I'm guilty. I can't face you Fu family members anymore. Fu Nanli frowned, forget all this and just pretend that what happened tonight didn't happen, huh? Wenqiao shook her head, she couldn't do it, how could she pretend that this didn't happen? No matter how painful Wenqiao was, she couldn't do what Fu Nanli asked her to forget, and the Fu family's funeral was held as scheduled. Just 3 days later, Fu Xianyuan's funeral was held at the Fu family cemetery. Mr. Fu is already feeling much better than the day he just learned that Fu Xianyuan had come back to life and back to life again. At least there is no longer a dead body, at least there are tangible ashes of his son under this grave. His son is no longer buried in the cold and ruthless sea, but has returned to his roots. Elderly people always pay attention to these things, so he feels at ease. Who will not die? The same was true for Yemingkaiu. She had already been sad when she learned of his violent death. Now that he died again, she was sad for a few days. But since people cannot be resurrected, she could only bury her sadness deep in her heart. Her younger sister, Yemin-chun, stayed with her throughout the whole process to comfort her. The group of people were all wearing black coats and holding black umbrellas. The atmosphere in the cemetery was solemn and solemn. Yemingkaiu suddenly asked Fu Nanli, why didn't Wen Qiao come over? Although Wen Qiao and her son are not married yet, they are already their recognized daughter-in-law. She usually attends important occasions, but today she did not come to her husband's funeral. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1459. Fu Nanli's heart skipped a beat and he said calmly, she hasn't been feeling well these past few days. I asked her not to come over. Yemingkaiu frowned. The child didn't seem to be such an ignorant person. Can something as small as feeling unwell be a reason not to attend my father-in-law's funeral? It seems a little unreasonable. But she didn't have the mind to think about these things at the moment. After the priest finished singing, everyone bowed in silence and snowflakes fell, as if they were also grieving for the Fu family. The group of people went down the mountain along the mountain path. White snowflakes hung on the green pines and snow fell on the stone steps. Uncle Li supported the old man and walked down step by step. Yemingkaiu's cell phone vibrated twice in her coat. She took it out and took a look. Her face suddenly turned pale. Her foot slipped and she fell on the road going down the mountain. Everyone was shocked and rushed to help her. Fu Nanli saw his mother glance at him. The look in her eyes was very strange, which made him feel a little abrupt. Yemin-chun helped her sister up and whispered, it's snowy and the road is slippery, so be careful. Yemingkaiu took a deep breath, and the cold wind blew into her throat. She said in a hoarse voice, yes, I know. When the group returned to the mansion, Yemingkaiu said coldly, Nanli, follow me upstairs. A cold light flashed in Fu Nanli's eyes. Did he know anything? With an uneasy heart, he still followed his mother to the study on the second floor. Yemingkaiu rarely looked at Fu Nanli with such a serious expression. Tell me the truth, what happened at the scene the day your father left? Who was he killed by? Fu Nanli lowered his eyes, his emotions unclear. When we arrived, my father was already dying, and then he was sent to the hospital. We don't know what happened. We only know that he had a fight with someone else. So, who got into the fight with him? Have no idea. Snap, a slap landed on Fu Nanli's face. His face was deflected, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. It seemed that his mother did know. You actually lied to me about this kind of thing? Fu Nanli, are you crazy? Who are you trying to protect? Fu Nanli always lowered his head. Yemingkaiu's mood was complicated. I know you love that child, but you can't protect her in this kind of thing. Do you know that? Fu Nanli frowned. I don't know what you are talking about. I received a text message and someone told me that your father's death was related to her. Fu Nanli clenched his fist. Who told you? You believe what others tell you, but you don't believe what I say, right? Yemingkaiu said sternly, please be sober and don't lose all your reason because of love, okay? Do you think I don't know anything? That night, when your father had an accident, when Chiao was present, and I paid attention, there is blood on her hands and she is completely lost. Then, she did not attend your father's funeral today. Doesn't all this explain the problem? Fu Nanli's voice was firm. I can't explain the problem, so please stop thinking nonsense. Snap, another slap in the face. Yamingkai gritted his teeth and said, I won't interfere if you fall in love. No matter who you are with, I can accept it, but I can't accept your father killing enemy. Fu Nanli, please wake up. Fu Nanli didn't know what to say to his mother. Nanli, you need to be sober. Don't lose your basic morals because of love. That is your father, and his blood is still flowing in your body. I will continue to investigate. If it is true that your father died at her hands, you can't be with her. Do you understand what I'm saying? This book should be finished soon. Thank you for your support. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1460. Fu Nanli lowered his hand. The situation is complicated, and I can't explain it clearly to you at the moment. Wen Qiao's situation is too complicated, but if he said it, it would seem like he was excusing her. It's better not to say anything. Yamingkai frowned. Nanli, can you wake up a little? Fu Nanli's eyes were tired. Sorry, I'm going back first. Let's talk about it later if there's anything else. Yamingkai grabbed his wrist. Go back. This is your home, where are you going? Fu Nanli's eyes darkened. Mom, can you please not embarrass me too much? Breaking free from Yamingkai's hand, Fu Nanli left the study. Yamingkai slapped the table in annoyance, with complicated eyes. Fu Nanli went out. The snow stopped outside and it was very cold. The car drove along the French plane tree path. In winter, all the leaves had fallen off, making it look a little desolate. Half an hour later, the car stopped at the door of the villa. Qin Bei stopped him. Master, your face. Fu Nanli knew that his mother's 2 slaps were very hard and there were still marks. He didn't care about it anymore and went upstairs. Wen Qiao was no longer in a daze like she had been a few days ago. She stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, her back looking a little pitiful and lonely. She has always been calm and rational. The death of her boyfriend's father was directly caused by her. What kind of suffering should she endure in her heart? Wen Qiao clenched her fists tightly. There was mist on the floor-to-ceiling windows and the sky was dark. Her face was reflected on the glass of the floor-to-ceiling windows. She closed her eyes suddenly. She couldn't stand herself like this and didn't know how to face Fu Nanli. Today was his father's funeral, and she watched him leave. She watched him get into the car and actually wanted to go with him, but he didn't ask to take her there. She knew that a sinner like her was not qualified to appear at the funeral. She heard footsteps and turned around to see Fu Nanli. For a moment, her voice became hoarse and she didn't know what to say. As she got closer, she saw that there were fingerprints on Fu Nanli's cheek, and even a little skin breakage. Yamingkai was wearing a ring on his finger and accidentally scratched his face. She raised her hand and touched his face. What's wrong? Fu Nanli held her hand. It's okay. He said it was okay, but Wen Qiao couldn't believe that it was really okay. For a person like him, no matter what suffering he suffered, he kept it in his heart and would never tell it to his mouth. You can guess it? After all, who dares to hit Mr. Fu? There are only his mother and grandfather. Under what circumstances was he beaten? Wen Qiao's heart twitched, so his mother and grandfather already knew the truth of the matter. And he bore all this for her. Then you go take a shower first. When Fu Nanli came out of the shower, no one was in the room. Qiao. I called several times, but no one answered. There was a note on the bedside table. I'm going home first, you've been tired lately, take a good rest. Fu Nanli's heart trembled. He called her, but no one answered, so he sent a text message, "Don't go anywhere, just stay at home." Wen Qiao didn't reply to the text message. She sat on the chair in front of her desk, looked at the text message he sent, and reached out to press her temple. New. Her mood was a bit complicated. She held a pen in her hand and wrote and drew on the paper without any purpose. There was nothing unusual about her appearance. 3 days later, Yamingqiu finally asked the people below to investigate clearly. Wen Qiao was indeed at the scene at that time, and it was indeed she who severely injured Xian Yuan and died in the hospital. There is nothing more to say.